Okay.
Real with you, and we're
Okay. So I'm gonna watch this YouTube video. This is a reaction. This guy is a pretty big content creator. 372,000 subscribers on YouTube. Give the video a like or subscribe if you like the points that he brings up and agree with them. If you don't be mean in the comment section. I'm sure that that's not gonna happen. The video is titled Stop Making Clone Games. It was originally titled Marvel Rivals Sucks, but he got a lot of pushback from his community naming it that. So we're gonna watch it and critique it. Shouldn't take too long.
We're gonna skip the intro.
He's skipping the intro, so I don't know why the fuck I did one.
I guess there's more to it than that, but that's the truth. Gaming has entered this phase where there's a lot of experimental stuff going on, and I feel like this is one of those experimental games. You see the failing market that is Overwatch, and you see a big IP like Disney and Marvel, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. You can absolutely make something like this work.
Did you say the failing market that is Overwatch? Isn't it still really good?
Characters, sign me up, right?
Isn't it still really popular, even though people are complaining about it all the time?
Like, it doesn't. At least not the way that it currently is. But before I rag on...
Okay. Closed beta for a game isn't working the way they expected it to. Or the way he expected it to. Got it?
This too hard. Let me pull back a bit and explain how we got here and where we're actually at with Marvel Rivals. Now, contrary to everything I literally just said, this game is fun.
Okay.
Like,
fun game.
Really fun. Getting to play as my favorite superheroes and beating people up will always be objectively sick.
Destructible environments, you guys saw that?
Game mode is extremely fast, and it really just feels like a good time, especially with friends. Here I am playing with CJ the Champ and Philly on Mars, and there's some moments where we're genuinely having a blast.
What character is that?
Get ripping,
She's got a sword.
Get ripping, Get ripping,
He's got a sword. That was sick.
He could not handle it, bro. The game is fast-paced. It does a decent enough job highlighting heroes and villains' abilities and translating it into the game.
Yeah.
It gives you enough variety to always want
to try. The characters have character, and they feel different enough that you want to play them. Okay, I'm failing to see what the problems are, but I think he's starting with the good.
How to explain it
not starting with the bad.
Fun. The game is just built for fun, but that's its first major problem. And trust me, there's a long list of problems. But before I get into those problems, I just want to say that the game is in alpha play testing. Yep. So almost all the stuff I talk about gameplay-wise will be
could change.
Moved.
Exactly.
It'll kind of just be me complaining, but I understand that this is not the finished game. My major issues have nothing to do with the game.
Looks really good.
Anyway, so I think my upcoming arguments remain valid. Okay, so you remember what I just said about how the game is built for fun? Well, that's a problem. Games nowadays, especially competitive ones, have this hard divide of how it will succeed in the market. It either has to be extremely fun, casually, with no competitive integrity at all, like Dead by Daylight, which already isn't the best comparison because, I mean, look at the state of the game. Or it has to be completely...
Isn't there like thousands of players on Dead by Daylight every day?
Like Apex, Overwatch, League of Legends...
I don't think League of Legends was built with competitive in mind. I also don't think that Overwatch was originally built with competitive in mind. Those two games were built for fun, and then they realized they had a budding esports scene and fostered it. And then tried to start balancing in a good middle ground between making sure that the casual players were happy and the competitive players would be happy. And when you're doing that, it's hard to please all audiences. But I don't necessarily think that they were built around competitive.
Etc. Those games were built around competitive.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all.
Marketed as such. Marvel Rivals is a game that wants to be built around competitive play, but plays like it's completely focused on fun.
Yeah, DBD has a massive player base. I figured. And another problem with this is he says that the game feels like it wants to be built around competitive and tries to be fun at the same time. Good. It's trying to strike a balance. I think taking a hardline stance on playing a game competitively versus playing a game casually is really bad, because what it does is it fosters one community and not the other, when you know that you have to foster both if you want to try to make a long-lasting successful game, right? Because you want those sick high-level plays that are going to happen on a big stage and esports arenas. But you also want the random Joe Schmo who just got off his 9-to-5 job to also play the video game and buy skins and shit. So we need to make sure that we're actually... If you're asking me, if I was a video game publisher and a video game developer, bitch, I'm choosing the casual audience. They're going to spend more money than the competitive players. The competitive players aren't spending shit. It's their job. Why would they need to? The casual player is going to say, oh, yo, is that the Iron Spider suit for Spider-Man? $20? I don't give a fuck, gimme! Oh, is that the movie tie-in suit for Scarlet Witch? That's my favorite girl. Yeah, give me. That's what they're gonna say. Competitive players aren't thinking about that stuff, so that doesn't matter.
And that makes the game pretty unsustainable. I'll put it in brass tacks so no one confuses what I'm trying to say here. Almost every single game I played, the Punisher was the best option for DPS.
He said that his critiques will still stand if the game completely changes, so I don't know why he would bring up a balancing issue. Like, this is clearly just a balancing issue because the game is in a closed alpha or a closed beta, whatever it may be. So I don't think that Punisher being the strongest in the game, which is funny because he's in a game filled with superheroes and he's just a dude with guns, I don't think it matters that much because of the fact that at the end of the day, this is just an alpha.
The Punisher. A man with a bunch of guns and no powers at all. He is extremely meta right now, and you almost need him to win. But no one wants to play the goddamn Punisher in Marvel Rivals.
So the Punisher basically seems like a Mr. Joe Schmo shooter guy, right? I love Victor in Paladins. I like the Amara Vex, I think is her name, in Star Wars Hunters. And she's just like generic soldier guy or soldier girl, because I think Amara Vex is a girl. Anyways, like, I like those styles of characters. I don't have a problem with that. Some people do just want to play the shooty gun guy in their super high fantasy game. Why do you think Soldier 76 still sees play even though he's not that great? Because he's fun and he's basic.
I can play Iron Man or Spider-Man or Storm or literally.
He said I'm playing Black Panther and I've heard he's the worst character in the game.
Yes. And for one simple reason. In games like Overwatch, Pharah is the only one who can fly in the air for extended periods of time. Why? Because adding another dimension of space to move around in makes movement unpredictable, it makes people have to look up, and it can cause even more chaos and confusion on a battlefield.
I think having chaos, confusion, and more depth, because we'll just call it depth. I think having more depth in a video game is probably better than not. Also, I believe there's like 3 or 4 characters in Overwatch that can fly. Because you can also think about the fact that Mercy can fly, so kind of weird that he only named 1. I think there's like 3 characters that fly, and I don't even play Overwatch, and I know that. So a weird point. But if the maps are built with verticality in mind, and the game is built around the fact that some characters can fly, it's not an issue, right? But what you need to think about is the fact that right now Marvel Rivals is in a closed alpha state, so maybe they're not giving the close range heroes that have like claws or a hammer or they fight with their fists, whatever. Maybe they're not giving them like stuns and like crowd control to keep these characters grounded, which is once again a balancing issue. Verticality is good because it adds more gameplay variety and depth. That's not the issue. The issue is the lack of a counter to it.
To combat her, there are characters like Soldier 76 and Cassidy who have easy weapons to shoot in the air with. And not just that, but their weapons are hit scan weapons, meaning that when they shoot, their bullets immediately go to their target, rather than projectile weapons that can be dodged. Now, what would happen if you made a game where you could have several Pharahs in a match, and you made every weapon a projectile weapon? That's right, you'd have Marvel Rivals. So much of the cast can fly or be in the air for
9 of the current 19 characters can be Ariel. He misspelled Ariel, but that's okay. As of this moment.
Extended periods of time, that it makes it almost impossible to run any other comp besides the Punisher. Why the Punisher?
Because he
has a weapon that is capable of shooting fast and getting enemies out of the air quickly. Aerial enemies also entirely remove the need for tanks because no tank can fly for a very long time, and aerial enemies can just go above shields and...
That's why you give characters crowd controls, stuns, and like pull down hook type things. It's once again, this is not an issue with verticality. It's an issue with the lack of counters to verticality. I said the same thing about the early... Yeah, he misspelled Ariel. It's okay. I said the same thing about the early beginnings of this Fortnite season, that cars were overtuned, and if they just had a decent counter or decent counters to cars, it wouldn't be an issue. They've now added EMPs, they've nerfed the boss cars, and I believe they even nerfed the spread on the guns, like on the car guns. That was like one of the early nerfs. So they weakened cars and then gave us a counter to cars. You see how that's just a balancing problem that was very easily solved by changing around some numbers and adding an item? Yeah, pretty easy.
Barriers. And while this is fun as hell to create this dogfight chaos atmosphere between heroes and villains, Competitively, it just creates this circular problem.
Then maybe, because he said the game is built like it's supposed to be built for fun, but it's in an era of competitive gaming. Maybe this game is meant to be fun, not competitive. Just a thought.
Does the enemy team have Punisher? No. Use aerial DPS. Does the enemy team have aerial DPS? Yes. Use Punisher. Does the enemy team now have Punisher? Switch off of aerial DPS and also run Punisher.
They're hero switching in this game.
This gets to the point that you might as well start with Punisher because that's where you're just going to end up.
This game does have hero
Don't even
switching.
get
Okay.
me started on melee characters like Magic and Black Panther. They can work if you use Punisher, but it again just adds to that circular problem. If you use
So
Magic,
there's a triangle meta. Isn't that healthy? A triangle meta seems healthy. Maybe not built specifically around one character, but one style of character. Yeah, a triangle meta is healthy.
Black Panther. Well,
You
guess
want
what?
so in card games, we say that a one deck format is like really oppressive. A 2-deck format is a coin toss, and a 3-deck format, at like the highest level of competition, is the best. Because then it means that you have to worry about 2 other matchups and the mirror, but you also don't have to worry about every single matchup being exactly the same because there's a 3-deck format. One of the best formats in recent memory for Yu-Gi-Oh! Was Toss. Sky Striker, Orcus, Thunder Dragon, Thunder Dragon, Orcus, Sky Striker, TOSS, Toss. Because of the fact that it was a 3-deck format where those decks were by far and away better than everything else in the field. You could even think back to Duelist Alliance format for Yu-Gi-Oh!, which was like 2013, 2014. I'm kind of fucking old. I might have the numbers wrong. Once again, very powerful format with a 3-deck format with like 2 or 3 on the fringes, but the main ones were Satellar Knight, Satellar Knight, Shaddoll, Burning Abyss, right? Another 3-deck format.
Enemy team DPS,
She's an X-Men character?
they're
Okay.
going aerial. And again, I get that. Similar to Genji and Tracer in Overwatch, where it's a comp built around a certain idea. But again, that's why there's only one Pharah in the whole game.
Two, but Pharah
Any
doesn't. I
more
mean,
than one flying character would make grounded characters weaker, especially if they all have projectile weapons, meaning that we need to
couldn't you just add more hit scan weapons to the game, and that would solve that problem?
aim to where an enemy flyer is going instead of where they are. Which, I mean, yeah, skill issue, I know, but still. Ultimates are another insane
That is a
issue
skill
in this game
issue.
as well. Now, once again, if it was entirely built for fun,
Which it might be.
work, but
Which it might be.
competitively, this has nothing to stand on. Ultimates stay active between rounds.
Okay, I want to talk about this one specifically because I come from Paladins, which had an esports scene. I play Paladins way more than I played Overwatch, right? I actually like that you build ults between rounds because it gives you another layer of stuff to think about when it comes to your opponent's enemy team. You think, I heard this character's ult sound, I heard this character's ult sound, and this character's ult sound. Hey, do you think that character built ult yet, or do you think that they're saving it for next round? Do you think they're saving it for next round, or do you think they just haven't built it? In a game like Overwatch, where you get ult and then in between rounds you don't get to keep it, it means that you just say, fuck it, Hail Mary, send it at the end of a round, which is the most one-dimensional, dumb, unga-bunga monkey shit I've ever heard of. That's awful. That is so terrible. I think that being able to build ults between rounds is a strategic thing that most games should have. What's wrong with, like hero shooters should have? I don't understand what's wrong with that, actually.
Meaning that someone who built up their ultimate in round 1 and didn't use it can immediately use it in round 2 to capture a point or push
Yeah,
an objective.
I think that's a good thing.
And if your team has no ultimates to counter, you pretty much
So why didn't you save your ult to counter an enemy ult? That sounds like a skill issue. That sounds like a skill issue. Hey, I know they saved their ult. I used mine because I'm stupid. Like, hey,
just
what?
lost the
Okay,
first
sure.
fight immediately. Giving a team something as powerful as an ultimate at the start of a round with no consequence is an insane move. Granted, this is likely part of the playtest, so I'm gonna assume it's gonna be fixed. But I think it's just odd that they
You said
included
fixed.
it
What if
at
it's
all.
what if it's a feature?
And lastly, and I know this
What if
last
it's
graph is
intended
small, but
behavior?
Get rid of the destructible environments.
Nah, I like
again.
destructible environments. That's
Listen,
it.
I know that it's cool as hell, and as far as fun goes, it looks great to see your favorite heroes just blow.
Doesn't the finals have fully destructible environments or very close to? The destructible environment shouldn't be an issue. Oops, accidentally muted it.
2 matches. And it's really annoying because sometimes the environments you break freak out and block you from moving or end up in weird places that just adds clutter to the screen.
So what you want is you want to make sure that the destructive environments have physics enough that they actually work and make sense.
Green.
Not get rid of them.
It would be
These
fun
are
in
old.
quick matches, but please leave it out of competitive at the very least.
That's bad old.
Oh, what the fuck? Get me
Oh,
the
that is
fuck
so
out.
funny.
I hate stage
That's a Goya?
Ooh, I'm back.
But again, all
That
of
is
these
so
things are
funny.
just playtest problems, easily fixable before the game launches. So what's the actual big deal? Well, it has nothing to do with the game at all, and everything to do with the current gaming market.
Okay.
This game is an Overwatch clone. There's no denying it or trying to hide it. Overwatch has been the biggest market on this type of genre, and it's performed
They even have the same reticle as a bad take because you can change your reticle in Overwatch and you can change your reticle in Paladins. That reticle exists in Paladins too, but you can change it, and I think you can change it in Overwatch. So I don't think that matters.
and set the standard
Earlier
on
in the
how this
video,
game should
there was a
run.
picture of him
Marvel Rivals is
using
attempting to cash
the
in on that type of genre
reticle
with their
that's like the
IP of
regular
superheroes and
crosshair
villains.
with
And there's nothing
the
wrong with
Punisher.
making something in competition. The problem lies in execution, like how you market a game and how a game performs. It's a very important first impression, and it causes a lot of games to die on arrival. And even in alpha, if the player base can't form a consensus on the game, they'll just leave it and return to Overwatch or Team Fortress 2 or
If they choose to return to Overwatch instead of trying something new, it means that they have Stockholm Syndrome for Overwatch. I don't think that inherently means that Marvel Rivals is bad. That means that people are fine with only liking the market leader and not dealing with new competition coming into the space, challenging that dominance.
whatever. And this is the major problem that I'm having with games nowadays. Too many of these clones who are looking for cash grabs or just don't enter the scene in the right way, these games almost inevitably end up popping for 2 weeks and then they end up in the bin. Great examples of this include Nick All-Stars Brawl.
That game was never popping. I don't know why he said popping for 2 weeks and then end up in the bin. We all knew that Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl 1 and 2 was a fever dream and that it wasn't meant to last. That it's supposed to be like, haha, funny little Smash clone that's Nickelodeon characters. Just like Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion, just like PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. These are not supposed to be serious competitors to Smash. They're not. That's not what they're meant for. They're meant to be a Smash adjacent thing that you can play at like side events that's really funny. I've never even heard of Brawl 2. You didn't know Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 came out? Yeah. They have like a slime meter now. Multiverses, once again, I would not consider a Smash clone because it doesn't have shielding and it doesn't have spot dodging and rolling. It only has dodging. Yeah, like where was the pop? Exactly. But it's also not dead. I think there's still like 20,000 players, 30,000 players online, which is higher than Brawlhalla actually. That's kind of good, surprisingly. So I don't see the issue there. Also, Lords of the Fallen is a single player game, isn't it? So
Lords of the Fallen, Paladins, and a whole
Paladins isn't an Overwatch clone. It came out first. What's wrong with you people? It came out first. Look. Hold on. I'm actually going to look it up. Look, I'll show you how quick it is to find out which one came out first. Or which one was playable first. Overwatch 1 release. I'll show you. 2016. Look, I'll just show you. Look, I'll just show you. 2016. Paladins beta release. Because I can't do the full release, but the beta was out for years. 2015! Huh! It was like, it's like Paladins wasn't a clone. It's like Paladins came first or something. The Fallen is a Souls-like. It's single player, but I think it might have a PvP element similar to Souls games. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, if it's a Souls-like, it's not meant to stay popping. Lies of P isn't still popping, and people call that a Souls clone. People call Lost Ark a Diablo MMO clone. Okay.
whole lot more. These games hardly offer anything more than an alternative to the status quo.
Good. All offering an alternative to the status quo and different features. That's something you should mention, especially because he mentioned multiverses, which actually is based 2v2, not based on 1v1 like traditional Smash. Doesn't have shielding, doesn't have spot dodging, has aerial drift and combos closer to, akin to Brawlhalla instead of Smash. But if we're going to continue to say that it's a Smash clone, it's pretty different. It actually has a different gameplay style, but the same gameplay loop of like get in, play plat fighter stuff, get out, right? Same thing with Paladins. Paladins doesn't have hero switching. Has like wider roles. You can play a tank that has healing, you can play a tank that has like damage elements, you can play a healer that has damage elements or tank elements. You can play a flank that has healer or tank elements. And like the characters aren't as one dimensional, no offense to Overwatch, as Overwatch. There's no hero switching, and you build ult between rounds. There are actual gameplay differences between Paladins and Overwatch and between Smash and Multiverses. So to just say that they offer nothing different outside of playing something that's not the status quo is stupid for two reasons. One, you need something to challenge the status quo to make it better. Even if you like the status quo game, you should like the fact that there's competition to it so that the status quo game is forced to become a better game. And if you don't like the status quo game, then you just have something else to play. Would you look at that? It's like competition is a good thing. It's the reason why we don't only have iPhones or only have Androids. They're probably a duopoly. They probably make sure they price their phones similar to one another so that they're not stepping on each other's toes and making sure they keep pretty close to feature and spec parity. But they're not the same thing. So it's not technically a monopoly. It's a duopoly. It's competition.
And while that's cool and
I know about the parries, so I don't talk about it because
like
casuals don't know about the
devs or
parries.
publishers are actually trying to make an alternative. It always feels like a half-baked effort to cash in on something that's already established. Because you know what happens when people do make a game as an alternative, and they do have proper care and marketing involved? You get games like Brawlhalla, Lies.
Okay, we're going to do this again. I'm going to go look at the Steam charts right now for Multiverses and the Steam charts for Brawlhalla, and we're going to see which one's higher. Cool? Because he says made with care. Brawlhalla's been out significantly more time than Multiverses, and I bet you Multiverses still has more players. I can look this up right now. 12,000 active players. Let's look at Brawlhalla. And if it's not the same, oh, it's the same. Would you look at that? It's like the clone game that you're calling shit has the exact same amount of players as the clone game you're calling good. Weird how that works. Funny how that works. You could have at least taken the time to look up a fucking Steam chart before making a YouTube video for your massive audience saying that challenging the status quo and making a game that's a cash grab instead of a passion project is bad. How do we know that Marvel Rivals isn't a passion project? How do we know that the team behind Marvel Rivals doesn't just legitimately love the formula of team-based shooters and wanted to put their favorite fantasy characters into one? Those are someone's favorite characters to ever exist. They're Marvel.
Of P and Genshin Impact and Valorant. These games took several inspirations from already successful
Valorant.
games.
Oh, Valorant is a CS:GO clone.
Considered clones.
Yeah,
but
it's
the
a CS:GO
delivery,
clone.
marketing, and actual commitment to offering something that's new and quality makes them stand out amongst the previous games.
Okay. Multiverses has only been out like 2 months again. It's only been back out 2 months, and it already has had like 3 patches. So we know that they are committed to trying to create a better experience for their players because they want to keep them around. We can't just immediately slate the game and shit on it because it's already putting in the effort to try to be a better game for its community. Marvel Rivals isn't even out yet. How the fuck are we supposed to know if they're doing this as a cash grab or if it's a passion project and they're willing to work with their community to make their game better? We don't know yet. The game's not out. It's a closed alpha.
Simply put, why should I play these games?
Because they challenge the status quo.
Similar to the game it imitates, why wouldn't I just play the original? In the latter games, they offer something else. Whether it's a compelling new story, a different combat system, or dev and publisher support to its competitive scenes, these things all make a larger impact. Now, again, I want to reiterate, this game is fun. It is. But it's not going to win me over above Overwatch. It's too similar, and Overwatch is already fleshed out. And I'm just tired of seeing these games come out. There are way too many clones on the market. Marvel is already doing great things with their IPs in the RPG genre, like Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, and the upcoming Blade game. And
Did he just call Spider-Man an RPG? Is he okay? Does he know what video games are? Is Dark Souls an RPG to him? I'm so confused.
No, they want to expand into other games as well, but
I'm
this
so
one
confused.
isn't. Now, I could still see this game possibly carving a name for itself if it dumps tons of money into esports.
I don't think it needs
Disney
to.
money
I think it
have-
needs to focus on fun and make sure that the vast majority of people who aren't sitting in a sweaty ass gaming chair on Twitch.tv are happy with the game. You don't want to make sure this 0.1% of people who sit in front of their gaming chairs with their $300 monitors with 360 hertz that are 4K and a $9,000 computer. You don't want to keep them happy. You want to make sure that the little guy on the other end is happy. The guy who gets home from work and is playing video games for 4 hours a night and wants his cool new skin as soon as he sees that it's updated. That's the guy you want to keep happy. Because that guy is willing to spend the money in the game and play for fun because the game is fun to him. Not because there's a large competitive scene, not because there's esports tournaments, and not because there's a large audience of people to watch him on Twitch. That doesn't make for a good game.
absolutely can do. But I
And
just see it as another
I'm not
failed
I'm
attempt
not
to
a
win over
fucking
gamers
I can't sit on my
with a
high horse here.
half-shell
I'm
clone.
clearly streaming.
Anyway, I just wanted to voice my opinion about this kind of thing, and I'm sorry if you got clickbaited into thinking I actually hate the game. The game's fun, but it's just not something I'm going to sink a lot of my time into. And it's not even because of the game, but because Overwatch is literally right there. I'll leave you guys off with a few highlights of me playing.
I feel like you should ask yourself, do I like Overwatch enough to continue playing? Like, is Overwatch the game for me? Or is there something slightly better? Do I think that this game could be slightly better? And if the answer is yes, you should probably play it and wait for it to get fleshed out. I'm sorry, not wait for it to get fleshed out. Be in tune with the community and see if they're fine with, see if they're ready to adjust their game for the broader part of the audience to make it the experience you want. People are constantly complaining that Overwatch is changing things for the worse or changing things in ways that they don't like adding passive healing outside of combat, like making it 5v5 instead of 6v6, like making it so that you can't have like your role locked, but you can still character swap, like things like that. I don't think that people liked those, yet people are so ready to stick with the game that's robbed them of the enjoyment that they've had so many times by adding things in that they didn't want. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like if Soul Calibur added like an instant kill mechanic that wasn't ring out, I would probably stop fucking playing. If Street Fighter randomly decided that characters were all gonna have swords and not punch with their fists and kick with their legs anymore, I'd probably go find something else that uses their fists and their feet to fight. You don't play the status quo and let the status quo game dictate your life. You dictate the life of the status quo game by choosing to spend your time on it. Continue making clone games. Continue making sure that there is a competition for the game that you want to sink the most time into. Because if that game wants to thrive in a market of competition, it will continue to change itself and adjust to make sure the players are happy or that the payers are happy. Because I'm same thing, but also different. The payers are the ones that really pay the bills around here. We're all of us only spend like $5 every 2 or 3 months on a game for the battle pass. Yeah, we're not whales. They don't care about us.
Playing with CJ and Philly. So thank you for watching. Thank you to all my patrons for supporting me on Patreon, and have a good one.
Well, I think the video was well put together, but just contradicted itself a lot. But the video, like, otherwise was very well put together, and he had lots of gameplay to show. So he wasn't talking out of his ass about things that he doesn't know. He was talking out of his ass about things he didn't like, which I can respect, because I do it too. There are things I don't like about certain video games, and I have no problem admitting it, because I don't fucking like them. I want to talk about them.